Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Recruiter Hangout. My name is Andrew Alex with Viral Marketing, and I'm joined, as always, with Bill Vick to help bring some excellent information about what's going on in the recruiting industry. And we have our wonderful guest today, Rich Rosen. He is a 20-year veteran in the recruiting world and having placed nearly 900 people in various sales and executive roles across North America. He's a regular contributor to industry roundtables, has been recognized as one of the top recruiters in the recruiting industry, and a go-to source for sales professionals and executive in the software world. Recently given one of the highest honors in the recruiting industry when he was inducted into the Pinnacle Society. Thank you for joining us, Rich. And of course, Bill Vick is our co-host here, who is going to help me out navigating the world of the recruiting industry. He is working with Viral Marketing to produce these Hangouts. He's a consultant, trainer in the recruiting industry, founder of Big Billers Publishing, and he is ready to take it away with Rich today. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Andrew. And Rich, as you know, you are one of my heroes in this business. You are truly a hitter. You walk the walk, and you do the deal, and you make it all happen. You've hit $1 million now a couple times in your career, and this year looks like you're on target to do it yet one more time. And that's just the pinnacle of the recruiting business. That's a benchmark that few attain, all strive for, and I congratulate you on what you're doing.
Thanks, Bill. Great to be here.
You know, you're in an area that's so dynamic. You work primarily, I think, with software companies and startup software companies, and that's a very volatile niche. And you've been in that now for how many years?
I've been placing software sales reps, execs, board level folks for 20 years now with the startups.
So you've seen many of these companies go through that whole cycle of birth to explosion, and many of them I know have taken you on that journey. As you look around that space, the sales recruitment area, and you look at how you structure your business and how it's grown and changed, because in the last year it's obviously changed. How do you see the changes impacting what you do when you think about the demographics, the younger millennial coming in the marketplace as a dominant factor, the social media mix of social media hitting what people do and how they do it and how they communicate? How's it impacting what Rich Rosen does at Cornerstone Recruiting?
Well, it's really interesting. Dealing with the millennials is that's a niche unto itself at this point, because they have a completely different mindset than the folks that sales reps that we've been working with for 20 years. They are more quick to make decisions, good or bad. They need to be in some cases coddled a little bit more, but they're frustrating to a lot of us old timers. But there's a lot of good, bright people in that group, and we've got clients that specifically only want those that group, right or wrong. But it's definitely between using social media, whether it's Facebook or obviously LinkedIn, to try to find these folks. That's only half the battle. Once you get them, it's a different conversation. You can't talk to the 2000 grad like you can talk to the 1990 grad. It's a different. I don't personally think finding social media and LinkedIn has made everything 1,000 times easier, but it's still that recruiter human interaction skill that never get replaced by any of the modern technology. And understanding how to work with these millennials, understanding how to get them excited, and instantly build trust with them is really the key to all those conversations. But they're still an enigma. I got to tell you, it's a real unique group to master.
Well, you touched on a couple of areas, because the demographic change that's taking place and the social structure change taking place and the value systems taking change, all in this kind of a soup, if you will. I'm going to call it social media soup. At the same time as that happens, we have these guys a la the LinkedIns of the world collectively coming in the business and enabling communication. But are you finding that millennial segment may be using LinkedIn a little differently than the Gen X veterans might be using it?
I think that to a degree. I think, a lot of the millennials use LinkedIn more like Facebook for almost, which is why LinkedIn has gotten so, cluttered with just ads and, a lot of junk, quite frankly. I don't think they have the reliance on it like, a lot of other groups do, quite frankly. I still think, at least for sales folks, I find a ton of people on LinkedIn, don't get me wrong, because everyone needs to be on LinkedIn. If you're a sales guy from my world and you're not on LinkedIn, I've got clients who don't even want to talk to you. So I think millennials, they use it, a little bit to see who you are more than to show who they are, if that makes any sense.
Say that one more time, because I want that to really hit people between the ears.
Well, I think the millennials, they really look at, like, what you've done. Who are you? Millennials, I don't think, are generally, they're not the most trusting folks. They think everyone's out to get them, I think, in a lot of ways. And they think every call is just someone looking for something instead of trying to give them something. And with millennials, it's all about what's in it for them, more so than ever before. So, LinkedIn, Facebook, you've got to have something on that shows a little bit who you are. And I personally think you've got to show, to be successful in recruiting, you've got to show who you are as a person. You've got to be a little bit, kind of open the kimono and say, hey, this is who I am, and this is what we do, and this is, even your social life, your personal life. Honestly, I think half my favorite clients, half my executives that I've worked with for years and years, that you're bitching and moaning about your family, your wife, whatever, the kids complain, and you build a little bond with them that way. And millennials, you got to find a different way to build with them. They're not at that stage yet. So you're finding it through whatever. Maybe they're into surfing, maybe they're into sports, whatever it may be. But you find that commonality that's really going to hook them in. And I think that's where you can use some of their Facebook stuff, their LinkedIn images or information. But they also want to know what you're all about. Are you a real person?
What you're saying is just so intriguing to me, because I think that most, not many perhaps, many recruiters, when they fall back into the LinkedIns of the world collectively, they look at it as a place to perfect their Boolean search techniques and find lots of people and engage them in some presentation. Not a relationship, not an enduring relationship, but a presentation. Those recruiters, I don't think, will ever see the pinnacle of the mountain. They're never going to see the top. Because as I talk to you, and we've talked in the past, Rich, and as I talk to other recruiters in your tier, hitters, million-dollar billers, I'm hearing two things that come through constantly. One is stay on the phone, and second is build relationships. Absolutely. And I think that is very true. However, what that also says, at least to me, if you're really doing that effectively, you don't have time to pick up the pieces. How do you maintain the relationship, as you have done, with some of those clients that are now your friends and buddies and vacation pals? You've built relationships that are truly enduring relationships. And that's where I see companies like Viral, as an example. I call them a pick-up-the-pieces company, because what they're trying to do is come in with a package of services so we recruiters can stay on the phone and build relationships and make placements. But how do you coach the people in your company that work for you, or those recruiters you speak to, because you do speak to groups and you're a voice of authority, how do you encourage them to get beyond the fact of today's kill is today's eat and look at tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, my company's easy because it's just me and a part-time admin. So.
Now, you've had people in the past, though. So.
Yeah, this is true old school recruiting. But no, honestly, I tell everyone, all my clients up front, and we share, my closer clients, we share Facebook, and we, send jokes and just simple things back and forth, just simple stupid things that keep them engaged. But I think the number one thing to keep clients coming back, just be bluntly honest with them. I mean, there's no BS. I tell them up front. I just had this conversation this morning with a client I've got 5 openings with him. He's like, we haven't seen anyone. I'm like, I could send you 100 guys if you want, but I'd rather send you the 2 guys that make sense. And I think a lot of recruiters, they're just such an eager to throw 100 people at them and just throw volume. And I was like, listen, you can hire all the recruiters you want, but you know what? You're going to end up with the same mess. If you just hire me, you're going to get 2 or 3 quality people, and that's what you want. It may take you a couple of extra days in some cases, but I don't know. I'd rather send you the right people than just send you random people that are going to annoy you. And the good clients appreciate that and respect it. The bad ones, they don't. We move on. It's really simple.
Because I know you fire clients if they don't really, they're not good clients. And I know you do this, right?
Absolutely. I think every big biller you've talked to, they do it because you can't waste your time with guys that are just want to kick tires, or guys that don't want to work your way, or guys that really don't respect what you do. And not that recruiting is saving the world, but at the end of the day is if you don't have respect for your partners, and you don't respect for your client, it's hard. I don't know. For me, it's hard to work with companies I don't respect or appreciate, and if they don't appreciate your time and your work ethic too, again, you're fighting an uphill battle.
Mm-hmm.
So there's enough clients that you can, I think you can find to work in your method, and want to be partners with you. And I think that's the big thing. I think a lot of recruiters, again, it's what I talk to a lot of folks about. It's okay to have a little authority. It's okay to tell the client, listen, this is how we have to work to be effective. And again, some will appreciate it, some won't, and those that don't, you move on. I mean, it's a hard lesson to learn, but once you learn it, you start making a lot of money.
I used to call that word control. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, control the relationship, control the client, control the candidate, and you control your placement. You make money.
Absolutely.
And you're not going to break the $1 million barrier unless you understand that.
Yeah, I mean, the second it clicked for me, it changed my business. And I was always a pretty good biller, even right out of the gate. I got off to a real fast start in this business. But once I really learned that, why am I wasting time with Company X, who doesn't really respect what we're doing, and either has multiple recruiters working on it, or he has, he just wants to say no to everyone without giving you feedback. Who needs them? I mean, there's just no point. So, have a little pride in yourself, have a little pride in your work, your time. If you do this job right, you make more than your clients do. So, quite honestly, not that money's everything, but you got to have a little respect for yourself when you do it.
It's better than a good barometer sometimes, I think. Yeah. Rich, if you kind of sit back and look at yourself as a good example, what are the things that you feel that good recruiters to become great recruiters? What are the 2 or 3 things that they have to put on their must-do list that they should do every day?
I mean, honestly, number 1, 2, and 3 is plan. Most recruiters do not plan. I was just at our friend's office, and I was there. There's 8 guys in their office, and their phones were so quiet. I was doing a little work upstairs in their office. I was down there, and I mean, you could hear my voice everywhere. Their voice. There was not a single person on the phone for hours, and I was like, "What are you guys doing?" I mean, you got to plan the night before. When I've had people work for me in the past, as you mentioned, I've had 1 or 2 folks, a few years back, and if that lasted, I should say, if you couldn't plan at night, and once your kids go to bed, or even if you're little kids, or after 8 o'clock, 8 to 11, you plan your day out for the next day, and then you bang through the phones the following day. If you're doing planning during the day, your calling hours, you are just dead. You are completely ineffective, and there's just no way you can produce at a high level. So,
Rich, to produce at a high level, I know this is a vague number, and it's a barometer for many people and different for the business, but how many calls a day should a good recruiter make? When I say calls, phone calls, outgoing phone calls.
Yeah. I mean, I almost the old number used to be like make 50 calls a day, which I still think is a good number. I think the goal is almost more to have quality contact. If you can have 10, 12, quality conversations in a day, you're going to have a great day. I mean, for me, my goal every day is to have at least 1 send-out. So if I get 5 a week, boom, you got 20 plus a month, 20, you're 125 a month, you're doing, or 20 a month, you're doing great. You
have 3 to 4 placements drop through the hoop. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about quality. You plan well, and it's dominoes. I mean, if you don't plan, you can't make the calls. If you don't make the calls, you can't make the send-outs. So you plan, and you plan quality, not just the garbage where people just throw up a bunch of stuff onto the onto their database and say, hey, here's my calls, and it's Barbara the secretary. I mean, quality contacts. That's going to get you where you want to go. That's going to get you where you want to make money. And I think if you focus more on the, your time on the phone, which is really those quality contacts, you'll kill it.
Mm-hmm. Do you script out calls, or you've been in business long enough where you probably don't have to script out calls? Some people do, but how do you handle scripting or those kind of things?
When I've trained other people in the past, absolutely write out your script, until you memorize. I remember when I started MRI, they're like, write it out. As soon as they start asking questions, just throw it over your shoulder. And I think when you're new and when you're starting, or even if it's just a new job sometimes, if it's a really complex job, absolutely write it out. for me now, I mean, I just talk to people, and it's my pitch is very simple. It's totally non-eloquent, eloquent. It's just, hey, we've got this great opportunity. Thought you may have an interest, or you can know someone, and once you get the guy start talking, you're golden. Even if the guy says no, that's great. Well, who do you know for this? And you go give him a little pitch anyway. And it's all about getting the guys and showing them energy, showing them some passion, and then showing them, hey, this is actually a real opportunity. It's just another recruiter calling with some fluff to get my information, give me nothing in return. And I think it's a huge part of my success, at least, is just high energy, a lot of drive, and a ton of follow-up. So.
When you talk about follow-up, I guess kind of the last question. I want to run out of time with you. I know you're super busy, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time, because I know the volume you maintain. Since we've been talking, you've had 6 phone calls come in, so I know you're ultra busy. I had a saying. I'll share this with you because I think it's appropriate. Anytime I'd walk into someone's office as a client, a recruiting office, and I was trying to help their business, if I heard more clickety-clack than yakety-yak, I knew they had a problem.
Yeah,
and that's what you're describing. It's click-clack keyboards, not this stuff.
Well, I got to tell you, but other thing too, you asked me earlier, one of the skills I think you need to have to be successful in this, and there's a couple of people I know in Pinnacle that don't do this, but I will, aside from those few, you got to be able to type and talk. These people that are taking handwritten notes down and then going back and typing it all in, I mean, it's such a waste of time. I couldn't handle someone working for me like that. I mean, maybe I'm unique, but I just think that it's such an ultra waste of time. In today's world, you got to type and talk or get Dragon Speak, do something.
Yeah. Do you record calls at all or not?
No. I mean, when I've tried to hire people in the past, I've recorded calls to try to help them and train them and correct them. But it's, I don't do it a whole lot. It's for myself at this point. I know when I screw it up, and honestly, when you screw it up with a candidate or a client, even you just apologize, you laugh about it, and honestly, it builds a ton of rapport. They appreciate it, and the secret to success in this business is being bluntly honest, having some personality, showing some energy, and then plan.
And being a real person as you are. You're human. You come across. You're not perfect. You're real.
Yeah.
For example, I look back at you and I see the explosion of information. That's really you. That's cool. See, I like that.
It's a mess. I don't have time to do anything because there's so much going on. My wife does so much stuff around the house, and she works full time. So you know what? She's a big help because otherwise I have a stack twice as high probably. But
I have an office. I'm not in my office now. I'm out on the road. However, in my office, in back of me, it looks like a really nice office. But if you turn a little bit to the left or the right, it's absolute chaos and confusion.
Trust me, I've got a stack of papers. I've got 2 dogs sitting at my feet. So, and then in 20 minutes, my kids will be running home. So.
Well, Rich, I have to tell you, I want to thank you so much because I know how busy you are, and your words of wisdom ring true. And I would hope anybody listening to this takes your advice. And you said it several times. It's being honest. It's telling it the way it is, having some personality, some excitement, and some drive. And so it's recruiting in your standpoint. It's an internal-driven process. Mm-hmm. You internalize it. I also hear you saying, which I know you live. It's a lifestyle, not a job. You live recruiting, and I think that's true of almost any million-dollar big biller I know.
Yeah, I would just. I mean, I always tell people, other recruiters, there's no other job in the world you can have the flexibility this job offers and the kind of money you can potentially make. Yep. And you can do half the hard work while you're watching TV with your kids if you really wanted to.
That's cool. That's cool.
So it's a great job, and I feel bad for the folks that either doesn't click or they just don't have the drive, because it's a life-changing opportunity. So
no question. It's a great job and a great business, and I tell you, you're a great guy, and I appreciate your time. Thanks, Rich.
But Bill, thanks very much. I appreciate being here, guys.
Yeah. I want to thank you both again, and thank you very much, Rich, at Cornerstone Search. I really appreciate your time. Thanks, Bill, and I took a lot away from this episode, to be perfectly honest. So, you guys take care. Thank you, everyone watching.